Hi folks, my name is Deb and my guiding name is Queen of the Universe. I'm a camp trainer and I put together this video for you to see what tents are possible, what to buy, what to look for, what to avoid. This video will show several tents, how they are put up, what things to be concerned about, different parts that you have to pay attention to, summer versus winter, what to use in the shoulder seasons, what tent etiquette can look like as far as how to take care of the tent, the significance of flies. You'll also see me making a few mistakes, calling flies tarps and not always knowing the name. This is totally unscripted, which is kind of how I do most things. So ignore the misslips. There's a few things that are consistent. The tent has poles that tell the story of the tent. All grommets, all pegs need to be put down in order for the structure of the tent to be maintained. The fly that goes to the ground is your best choice. Vestibules are a nice to have, not mandatory, but they certainly make things a lot better. There are certain tents that work best for adults, certain tents that work best for families, others that work best for younger girls as opposed to older girls. The video will give you a few suggestions or nods about what that can look like. Mesh tents versus all-season tents. We try to cover it all in this video. Questions, please ask your trainers or respond to this video and I will do my very best to get back to you. Thanks for watching and I hope this answers some questions you have about tent care, putting up tents, bringing them down, and what to look for if you're in the market to purchase one.
Good for me.
This is when you're looking at a tent, have a really good look at whether or not you've got hooks or you've got sleeves or pockets. The sleeves look like this. The poles will go through that as you put up the tent.
I thought there was no screening in here.
Don't have the doors, right?
Just give me a second.
If you see the silver on the inside, this means this tent is for colder weather. There's screening on the doors, but there's no screening in the tent itself. So this would probably not be the best tent to have for a family in June. This is more something to have in the spring or the fall when you're trying to keep people warm. This will fit 2 adults, 3 larger children like guides. I'd put 4 embers in here, or a family with small children. It's a very easy tent to put up, but it's going to get warm. There are 2 vestibules like this on either end, so you can come into the tent on either side. As you can see, this tent is slightly bigger. It can probably fit for actual adults, more children, but notice the mesh on this. This would be a tent for warmer weather. So if you're going to camp in June, as we are with Mom and me, this might be a very good idea of a style of tent. The mesh is important in the summertime to keep you cool. In the wintertime or spring and fall, it is not a good idea. This is the tent fully set up. There's only one window and door on this end. The window's on the other end. But notice how the vestibule, it does not cover. There's screening here at the top. That means all weather will just blow right in and it can settle on the people in the tent. Although it is a screen tent, which is better in the summertime, it is not very well protected from the elements. This tent would have to have an additional tarp over it to protect it from any elements that we have while at camp. It is, however, a good size, so you could fit quite a number of people in there. The other thing lacking is a vestibule. So there's no way to have their luggage anywhere but in the tent with them. So that has to be a consideration when you assign how many people would go into a tent like this. This is an example of a very, very old tent. See how the zipper doesn't even completely close? This is an example of a tent that uses hooks to put it up rather than the sleeves. And it uses grommets at the bottom to put the poles in. Now, a tent like this can still be useful, even though it is not a good idea to have any girls sleep in this. Storage or a changing tent, if you've got a lot of girls in the unit and they don't want to change in front of each other in their own tents, it's a possibility. So sometimes holding on to tents that are not camping worthy as far as sleeping, but are good places to put storage or any other process is a good idea. I don't suggest you hold on to too many, but occasionally extra is better. Okay. Sometimes these tents have hidden sleeves. So this is how you put in the pole for this particular tent. There's a number of tents like that. And then the end of the pole goes into the grommet there. And as you can see, it pulls the top of the tarp out, but not significantly enough to protect this tent from rain. If you were to use this, you would be very wet very fast. And if you notice down here, there's not much room between the edge of the tarp and the mesh in the tent. It would also blow up underneath. So again, not a recommended tent. There's no vestibule, there's no protection from the weather, and everything can blow in. This is something to be aware of. See how there's a wow in this pole? In heavy winds, like we actually are experiencing today as we're putting tents up, lightweight poles like this can get a bend in them. They're still able to be used, but just keep an eye on that so that you can, if need be, you can find ways to straighten it. This is not a bad wow, but it can happen very easily in a lightweight tent where the poles are not terribly thick. Here is again another fully mesh tent. The only place that is not mesh is on the bottom of the tent. This is for summer or a very late spring or early fall. Now, one of the differences between what we're going to experience with this tent and the tent we saw before with mesh is this has a fly that will go completely over it, making it a little more weather secure. When you find a single pole in your bag, it usually goes over the tent like this to hold it up. A double pole would be on both the right and the left of the tent. All this does is it pulls the tent out to give it proper shape, and it allows it to be more easy to put the fly on top. This is an example of a really good tent to have for your family as well as for the girls. It's got vestibules on both ends and doors on both ends. So if there is weather kind of coming in at one angle, they've got the other option of a door to get into, so it'll keep the weather out of the tent. At the very bottom, we'll notice that we've pulled out the tarp, or the fly rather, so that it's away from the tent. Everything on a tent is designed for structure. So if there's Velcro, if there's peg holes, if there's ties, make sure you do them up, because all of it is designed to keep you dry inside a tent, because weather can make the fly go close to the tent, and then it'll start leaking. So here's the second vestibule with the door. Luggage can also be kept outside of this. This is the amount of room, and the girls can get in very easily. Now the tarp, the fly, I keep forgetting the word, will go down almost to the ground, and the bathtub floor on the bottom will make sure that the wind keeps out. Now, one of the things that often happens with girls is they want the tent to look pretty. They want to have an entry place where they can put their shoes and look fancy. How that often represents itself is they have the footprint or the tarp that is under the tent left out. We don't want to do that, because that collects rain and moisture, which will then dribble under the tent and make everything wet. So make sure when you are putting up a tent that if you are putting it on top of a tarp as opposed to a footprint that is sized for the tent, that you make sure that everything is inside and covered by the fly. This is an example of a tent you might find borrowing from another unit or another guider or scouter. See that it's got lots of room. It's got a really good bathtub floor. There's mesh at the top, which would be a concern, but the tarp is going to take care of that, the fly. There are all sorts of pockets on the inside and outside for organization and whatever else. Now, one of the issues with this, however, is the height. So often tents are made, there's a certain amount of just structure that's necessary for a large tent to have height. But if you have too tall, then the temperature, the heat tends to rise up and it makes the tent a lot colder. This is designed to have lots of people in it, and that will keep the body heat in. If you only had 1 or 2 people in this, it would be a lot colder than it would need to be. Now, this is pre-fly. If you look at all of it, see the clips, there'll be a key down at the bottom to put the peg in, to put the bars in. Poles, thank you. It's mesh only on the doors and the top, and the doors also have a covering, but the sides are fully covered. Down at the bottom, this has its own vestibule stomp. Remember we talked about the girls wanting something a little bit neat? This is a great place to put shoes and whatnot after the fly is on to protect everything from the weather. This is on both sides, so this should not have to go under. Now, a tent like this, you will have to use a tarp underneath because it probably will not come with a footprint, and the extra protection from the ground is necessary. This is how large the vestibule is on this tent. As you see, you can come right in, and there can be quite a bit of stuff left here if need be. And the fly comes to the ground, it protects a lot. Keeps the wind off as long as all of the guy lines are tied down. And then you've got the entry into the tent. So this can sleep 4 girls very comfortably. It can sleep a family very comfortably as well. This is actually a really good tent for younger people. Not necessarily something you want with pathfinders and rangers, but with guides and embers and sparks, you could use this tent quite efficiently. I hope this video was helpful. It surveyed a number of different styles of tents and what works well and what doesn't. Again, everything is part of the fly. The tent can be in challenging condition, but as long as the fly is solid, it's wonderful. Conversely, if the tent looks absolutely pristine, but the fly doesn't do the job, then you've got problems. The parts of the tent to recognize, and I admittedly in the video kept making mistakes. The fly goes on upside top. The ground sheet or footprint or tarp is on the bottom. Do not let it show outside beyond the tent. Try to find a tent that has a fly that will go all the way to the ground. That gives you the flexibility. If it's a really hot day, you can just take off the fly and you've still got the tent fine, especially if it's mesh. But it gives you the protection from the weather you need. Always use all the parts of the tent for hookup. So that's all the guy lines, all of the grommets on the bottom. Make sure they're plugged in. All of this is designed to make the tent stand up properly so you'll have a safe and dry and secure night. And as always, if you've got questions about the tent you need or how to put it up or just if you need anything extra, you can always reach out to your trainers because we are here to let you know what works, what doesn't, and how you can accommodate them.